My name's Cassandra Kavanagh, and I have 2 children on the autistic spectrum, one of whom didn't talk till they were 6. I am, and I have what used to be called Aspergers, and I still like that term. And a lot of other people in my family also have autistic spectrum disorders. Just before I keep talking, there's probably about 5 people in this room who might have heard just a few of the stories I'm going to tell you today, but because they're so important, I am going to tell you them again. And I don't usually bring notes, but just because there's been a death in the family, I'm a little bit distracted, so I have bought some. But what I have bought today is my special hat. I started wearing hats when I was 2, and I didn't ever take them off. And I only just learnt to take off my hat 2 years ago. But I bought this hat with me because the reason I took it off is really special. And I mentioned it in my talk last year. I went to a lunch and I sat down and I was really excited because I'd never been asked by a group of women to a lunch before. And it was one of my dreams. And I had this hat on, so I'm going to put it on. And one of them said in front of me, "Hey, I bet she's got Aspergers. I'll bet $10 she's got Aspergers." And the other woman said, "I bet she's got Aspergers too." I was sitting there. And I said, "Hey, you can't both bet on the same thing, because if you're both betting that I've got it, you're either going to both win or you're both going to lose." And so then they looked at me and they said, "Well, do you have it?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I said, "But how do you know?" And they said, "Your hat." And I took my hat off and I was like, "No Aspergers?" Put my hat on. I thought, "Aspergers? I'm going to have to look in the mirror when I get home." And if any of you want to borrow it for a diagnosis, because apparently. But it gave me an idea about what I was using my hat for, which was kind of like a security blanket that I had as a child. And I wondered if I'd be a different person if I took it off. And I can truly tell you that taking my hat off has changed my life. Now, I had someone come up to me this year and say, "Hi, I heard you had Asperger's." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, I thought you'd be different." And I said, "Well, what were you expecting?" And she said, "Well, someone all right." And I said, "Well, I am all right." And then she said, "Well, I was expecting you to be kind of odd and different." And I said, "Well, that's everybody I know, like, who's all right." And this is a really true thing. This is how I actually feel. I think, well, okay, I have a diagnosis, but every time I meet someone, I always think, well, what have you got? Because from my perspective, and I get asked another really strange question, and some of you might feel a little bit uncomfortable because you've actually asked me it, but don't feel uncomfortable because I know why you have asked it. It's because you're thinking about your children. But I was telling Deb the other day that quite a few people come up to me and they go, "Wow, you got married, how?" And I always think, well, Ted Bundy did it, and, you know, he killed about 50 women. It's kind of an odd question to ask, because I think of the most unpleasant person that you know and go up to them and ask, "Wow, how did you get married?" Because that would make more sense, because I actually think I'm quite nice. If you actually ask me, "How did you get married 3 times?" that would be a better question, because that is actually what happened. It was only when I married somebody who's got Asperger's as well that my life transformed, because we are the same. When I look back on the previous marriages I've had, I can see where I went a little bit wrong. And I was thinking the other day of how I went on my honeymoon with husband number 2, and like every woman, I had this dream to have progeny, children. So we're having an intimate moment, and afterwards I said, well, at least you're really good at cooking. And I would not say that. It didn't go very well after that. And it turned out he was awful anyway, but we might have got off to a better start. And I think that's one of the things about Asperger's is that you don't really know for quite some time in your life, or autistic spectrum disorders, what's the okay thing to say, particularly when you hear phrases like honesty is the best policy, and you take it on board and you think, okay, right, I will be absolutely honest about everything, that works. And even though you keep finding out that it doesn't, you still keep on doing it. And somebody else said to me this year, I don't think you have enough autistic spectrum disorder. And I thought, how much do I have to have? Because you're seeing me at the end of a really, really long and difficult journey. And I'm going to take you back to my childhood to just give you a little bit of an idea of what maybe your children are experiencing, and also so that you can see what I experienced. Because the one thing that I know is everyone, including people not on the spectrum, is so much more than you actually see. So I'm going to take you back to when I went to school, and just for a moment I thought I'd entered into some kind of parallel universe. I wasn't even sure if my parents were who they said they were, because I knew that my parents would not leave me in a place called school that was filled with maniacs and chaos. And I felt totally traumatised by it. And by the time I got to grade 1, I was also feeling like a failure. And I thought, never going to have a friend. What is this thing called friendship? How do you get it? What do you do? And I have told this story to a few of you before, but it will actually put you in my shoes, so I am going to tell it. I was lining up outside the library, and this girl called Anne, I still remember her name, I still remember what she looked like, and she actually, now, I actually said this when I met her 20 years later. At the time, she smelled faintly of Labradors and Pal, because she had lots of dogs in her home. And when I met her at the school reunion about 5 years ago, she'd changed and she came up to me and she said, I don't think you'll remember me. And I went, oh, I do! You're Anne, because you smell like Labradors and Pal. And that wasn't a good way of remembering it, I discovered. So I don't think even the 5 years from then, but back then when I was in grade 1, she turned to me and she said, you are the nicest girl in school. And I was like, oh my gosh, someone's finally noticed. And I was like, have you told anyone else? Is it just you? Does everyone know this? And she said, no, trust me, you are the nicest girl in school. And I was like, can you please tell everyone else? And then I started thinking, what? Why? How? Yesterday I wasn't. Today I am. What's the right thing I've done? So I said, why am I the nicest girl in school? And she said, you have never called me an elephant. And I looked at Anne and I thought, well, her name is Anne. Why are people calling her an elephant? And I said, what? And she said, let's not go there. Just, you're the nicest girl at school. Let's just leave it at that. But I was baffled. I wanted to help Anne. I looked at her and I thought, well, elephants have 4 grey wrinkly legs, and I checked her knees out and I thought, well, her knees might be a little bit more wrinkly than everyone else's, but she's still only got 2 of them. She wasn't grey, she didn't have a trunk, she didn't have tusks, she didn't have flappy ears. I was completely baffled. But I worked it out at home time, when all the mothers come to collect the children, because we had that rule. And everyone was lined up outside, and the teachers were there, and they were all ready to pick up their children, and I had this moment of revelation, and I wanted to share it with Anne, and she was quite some distance away. She was like over there, so I yelled, Anne! I know why everyone calls you an elephant. It's because you're really, 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 really big and fat. And all the parents, I still remember this, and the principal going, my office. And me thinking, I haven't helped Anne after all. I wonder if I'm the nicest girl in school now. Maybe not. And the thing with people on the autistic spectrum is they either overgeneralise or undergeneralise. And I was completely baffled by the experience. And I changed schools, and once again I was the most unpopular girl in school, but I met another girl. Her name was Lisa. And just when we were getting ready to go into scripture, she turned to me and said, "You are the nicest girl in school." And I was like, oh boy, this is dangerous but good. I better not stuff it up this time. And she said, it's a fact, and I said the same thing. How? Does everyone else know? Please tell everyone. Am I going to be asked to parties? And she said, you are going to be asked to my home. And I said, why? And she said, you are the only person who has never called me curry and rice. And her name was Lisa Curry, and I was completely baffled. And I said, what? Well, why? And she said, I really like you, just don't even mention it. And so I said, what about if somebody called you Lisa Chair? And she said, no, that would be annoying, but that would be okay. I wouldn't like it. Don't do it, but that's fine. I was like, well, what about Lisa Curry and Cuppet? And I went through this list until she said, I really liked you this morning, but if you keep on, just don't do the curry and rice. So then I thought I had it. I thought, ha, it's rice. So all the way home I went going, dog and rice. Ha, I have power. This word rice, I had no idea what it was. And I went to her house and she said to me, she was showing me everything. It was all exciting. My parents let me go. I got to that stage where I thought they would never let me go to a party or anything because there was always one disaster after another if I actually went. But this time I think they were keen for a break because they went, yes, you can go, that's fine. Started packing my bag with the pyjamas in it. I was there jumping on Lisa Curry's bed, and then I said, what would happen if I actually said, Lisa Curry? And she said, don't, because if you do, I will call my dad, he will come running upstairs, and he will take you home, just like all the other children. But I couldn't let go of it. The word, it seemed so powerful, so amazing, and I thought she liked me and I was the nicest girl in school. Maybe I could say sorry after I said it. But I just wanted to see what would happen, because I was kind of imagining lightning bolts and, maybe the roof opening, something amazing. So I said, Lisa Curry Rice? And she did exactly what she said she would. She called her dad and I went home, and I was completely baffled. And when I got to school the next day I said, am I the nicest girl in school? And she said, no, you're horrible. And I had no idea why until I was actually in my 30s, and then I worked it out. And I recently had a little art show with Aspect. And I mentioned at this art show that one of my teachers, Mrs. Hackett in 4th grade, had said to me, she said to the whole class, draw something really amazing that you saw on your school holidays. And I drew an anatomically correct drawing of 2 horses mating, because that was, without a doubt, the most exciting thing I had ever seen. And she took it off me. And she stood there going, oh! And she put it in her drawer, and I thought she liked it that much. She's keeping it for herself. Everyone else's art is up on the wall. She wants to take my horse picture home. So when it was recess, I snuck in and I took it out. And I thought if she liked it that much, I'd show it to everyone else. And I explained what I saw, and everyone was really thrilled. And I usually didn't get to play with anyone. I had the whole class's attention. And I suggested playing this game. It was spring, so I thought it was apt. We'd be horses mating. I'd also happen to see another horse giving birth. So I described in detail, and I laughed at everyone. You will be mating, you will be giving birth. I gave them all the instructions. Now, I can only imagine now, when the teachers looked out of the window and saw the entire class following me towards the shrubbery, they must have known. But anyway, I said, stallions rear up, describe it. So I had stallions these mares and then the other mares in labour on this side. And the noise that spread out across the playground was music to my ears, but I still remember turning around and seeing teachers almost like that old show, The $6 Million Man, where everyone's running in and the teacher going, and then when they got there, they said, "Who is responsible?" And the whole class just went. And the teacher did this big chalk circle and made me stand in it, but nobody actually explained what I'd done wrong, and I was actually banned from the library as well. In case this teacher said, in case you give everyone else sex education. And I didn't even know what sex education was. I just only knew that horses had done this completely amazing thing. And somebody had said, after that, you get a foal, which I thought was another amazing thing, and I wanted one, so... I look at my children now going through the same kind of experiences that I went through, that same bafflement, and I have one son who's terribly, terribly charming. He's like a Victorian gentleman. But just when I'm getting really pleased, he does something, and it's okay if you laugh at this because I've cried, but we were at my dad's funeral 2 weeks ago, and my son was being absolutely beautiful and greeting everyone, and then overriding everybody, I heard this voice say, "So, in a zombie apocalypse, do you think a machete would be better or a crossbow?" and I thought, where's Luca? And I could see the person thinking, well, I've never quite been asked this question before. I'm asked it regularly, by the way, but we still haven't come to a conclusion. They're expecting it to happen any minute. But my children have got to that stage where they're saying to me, "Mum, what are we doing wrong? Why haven't we got friends? But the thing is, it's something that you only come to learn through experience. And even now, I'm learning amazing things, and having the courage to exhibit my art is changing my life. But even this year, I'm standing up here, I'm talking to you, and I'm feeling good about it. But even this year, I made what would seem to be a really obvious error in retrospect. I learnt, because I'm just making social contacts now. I haven't really had many before, and I've been a bit of a hermit. So I learned through bitter experience that you don't tell someone else's husband you love them, even if you leave out the word in. I thought in was the crucial word. It isn't. It means exactly the same thing. And I had this really awkward moment when this man's wife came up to me and said, "Do you find my husband sexually attractive?" And I thought, uh-oh, what if I say no? He probably won't like that if she passes it on, or maybe that will be criticising her taste. And he did look quite nice, so I thought I would go to the Safeway and go, yes. That wasn't the right answer. But she said, "Oh, are you admitting you want to have sex with my husband?" And I said, "Well, no, because it would be completely different, because my imagination is much better than reality, so I wouldn't bother." But that wasn't the right answer either. So I often try to work things out by thinking about food, so I thought I would help her, because you'd be surprised at how often you can fit food analogies into relationships. So I said to her, look, it's like this. You know when you go to dinner and you're in the restaurant and you notice someone else has ordered something really, really yummy, and you look at that and you think, oh, I wish I had ordered that. As long as you don't actually taste it, like my cousin Ben did, as long as you don't actually dribble on their plate, you dribble on your own and you think, it's okay. It isn't okay. So I tried to say, all right, because one of my worst husbands was actually owned a patisserie. So this is where this analogy came in really helpful. I said, if I walk shop and I look at all the cakes and I want all of them and I'm just thinking, I really want those cakes. The patisserie owner is not going to come out of the shop and go, you must buy them now, you have looked at them there, sadly no one else can have them. And I said, it's the same thing. If I just look at your husband, it's okay. I haven't, gone any further. That's all right. Besides, he's really, really nice. But I'm not friends with him anymore. So I have learnt another lesson. But life is full of these pitfalls, and I know I've got more of them to come. But at the same time, I'm feeling that for all of you, it's worth the mistakes, it's worth the trials, it's worth the errors, it's worth the sadness, because there's a whole lot of happiness that goes with it. And I'm going to tell you a food analogy that has helped a lot of people that I know. And they're not my friends. Like I told you last time I was here, I worked in childcare for 12 years and I got to hear a lot about people's relationships and why they go wrong. So I know that neurotypical people can make mistakes just like people on the spectrum. And one of the things that a woman said to me was, because I see a lot of divorces when I was working in childcare, a lot of marriage breaks up, a lot of friendship breaks up. But I remember this one woman coming in and saying to me, and the reason I'm telling you this is because when you've got children on the spectrum or you're married to somebody on the spectrum, it can place an incredible strain upon that marriage and upon that relationship. So this is to help you, but this woman, she had a child on the spectrum and she thought her husband might be, and she came in and she said to me, I've absolutely had it. I am putting 60% into this relationship and my husband's only giving me 40. And I thought, how do you even measure that? And maybe 40% is his best, and that's all that you're ever going to get. But I thought about it like this. And since I've talked to a lot of people with this story, or maybe they're just being kind and they're saying I have, but if you went to a cafe and you asked for a piece of apple pie, and your partner, the one that you're about to divorce, also asked for a piece of apple pie, and the waitress is new and she's not very good at cutting up pies, and she cut a big whopping 40% piece off and a big 60%, because that's like the whole pie, and you got that on your plate, the person with a 40% piece of pie would be going, whoa, this is the best piece of pie. Have you seen how much pie I've got on my plate? And so with the other person who got the 60%, it's a big piece. So sometimes that's all people can give, is that much of the pie. And even in my relationship, marrying someone that's actually got Aspergers doesn't make it any easier. And what you have to tell yourself is what they're giving you, unless you really don't like them. I mean, if you really don't like them, then forget the pie story. It's only if you actually like them. But the other thing that helped people, because the one thing I heard in childcare, and I thought about whether I was going to say this today, because so I'm going to be very careful with my words because I don't want to offend anyone, but it's a real part of life, and it seemed to me that a lack of intimacy in the relationship was one of the things that caused it to go down the drain. And so I thought about that a lot. And a lot of people's partners just separate and divide, and that divide gets bigger. They don't find each other attractive, they don't like each other anymore. And you have to think of it like this. This is just my secret tip. Is, you know that person that's lent you a book? They give you a book, they love the cover, and they hand it to you and they say, this is great. And you look at it and you think, I don't want to read that book. The cover, the title, it's not doing anything for me, I don't want to read it. But it's your friend, and so you think, okay, I'll take it, I just won't read it. But you meet your friend. So this book, by the way, is your partner. It doesn't matter what related, whether it's heterosexual or you're homosexual, doesn't matter. The book, or you think of the book as your partner. You meet your friend in the street and she goes, so how's the book? Are you liking it? You haven't read it. And so you go, oh, start reading it, and you don't like it, and you think, no, I'm still not going to read it even though she's my friend. I'm telling you, just go on to that next chapter. And you just read a little bit more, because this is what it's like. This is what relationships are like. And you read it, and your friend goes, are you enjoying it? And you're like, no. She's going, trust me, by the third chapter, it's going to get you. So, when your partner wants to be more intimate with you, think of it like this book. Anyway, I've got this, you get to the third chapter and you think, oh, okay, this could have a good ending. This might be good. Maybe I'll read a bit more. And by the fourth chapter, you're thinking, I'm not going to put this book down. Wow, I want to see what happens in the fifth and the sixth. And then by the time you read the fifth and the sixth, you're looking forward to the end of the book. And it was the best book that you ever read. And that's how you have to approach your relationships, as if it's like a story. And maybe the bits of it that aren't good, you still got to read them to get to the good bit. And that's how I've had to look at my life and my relationships with people a lot. And going back in time, I've thought of all the mistakes I've made, and instead of thinking, oh no, I've made mistakes, I think of how I can learn from them. And I was telling Deb the other day how I got this job, and I was working with this principal in a long daycare centre. And we were in the middle of a meeting, and I was disagreeing with her because she was an idiot. There's two types of idiots. There are really nice ones who make mistakes by accident, and then they're just awful idiots. They're just horrible. She was one of those. So I was disagreeing with her, and I had no idea that you couldn't disagree with your boss, and so blatantly in front of all the other staff members. And so I was pointing out every time she said something stupid, I was like, oh, that's a really bad idea. And she stood up in the middle of the meeting and she said, Cassandra, into my office, I have had enough. And I said, we haven't finished the rest of the meeting yet. And she said, no, everyone make yourself a cup of tea. Cassandra, come with me. So we went into her office and she said, we have a problem. And I was thinking, yeah, it's you. But she was thinking, it was me. And she said, everybody likes me, everyone else loves my ideas, except you. And I said, oh, no, that's not true. And she said, no, Cassandra, it is true. You don't seem to like me, you don't seem to like my ideas. And I was like, oh, no, that part's true. It's the part where you said everyone likes you and thinks you have good ideas. That's not true. Nobody likes you and they hate your ideas. And yeah, that wasn't the right thing to say. And it made working with her a bit more uncomfortable than I was expecting. And but she was a very difficult person to work with because she liked the look of things. She thought art was a fire hazard. And she also had this thing, like she really liked shiny glass windows. And because I'm quite a clumsy person and I'm getting a bit too close to the front of the stage, I wanted the safety glass to have these, little markers on it so that you could tell, because quite a few children were running into it, but she didn't care about the children part. She cared about it all looking nice. So right when I was in the middle of having an argument with her about that, she said, oh, I've absolutely had it with you. And she turned and walked smack into the glass window, lost 2 teeth and was out cold. And the first thing she saw was me looking down at her, smiling, going, that was great. Now will you agree that we can have the safety stickers? And that didn't go down well either, although we did get the safety stickers. Another story that I thought I was thinking about, because when I was asked to give this talk, I was thinking about how to explain to people how challenging life can be. The hurdles that can come your way that seem disguised in the guise of something really nice. And I'm going to go right back to when I was in my 20s, when this very handsome young man approached me at my place of work and said, would you like to live with me? Just out of the blue, we hadn't had a relationship before or anything like that, and I thought, and I said, well, that depends. How nice is your house? And he said, it's lovely. Would you like to have a look? So I went and had a look. He had a cat. He had all the mod cons. It was really nice. So I said, yep, I would really love to live with you. And then that night he came into my room and said, I love you, hey. And I was like, wow, really, that's fantastic. So I'm really surprised. I had no idea. So we embarked on this relationship. And as the 9 weeks approached, he said to me, you might have to move out tomorrow because my girlfriend's coming back. And I was like, why? There's room for both of us. I'm sure she's nice. I'll really like her, won't I? And he said, no, you have to go, and furthermore, don't tell anyone at work what's happened. And I was really puzzled, but he got nasty and I was surprised, so I moved out. But I kept knocking on their door when she came back, because I thought, well, if she meets me, she might, like me. And they got a bit irritated about that. And they decided to have this really big party at her house. And she asked me, and I actually did have a friend at the time, and she said, if I were you, I wouldn't go. And I was like, are you joking? I never get asked at parties. I am so going. And I went to this party, and I didn't realise that it was an engagement party, and he'd given her this ring, and everyone had obviously got there a lot earlier than I had. So when I got there, a whole lot of people were standing to the sides of the room, and the music stopped, and I went in, and they went into the middle of the floor, and they were dancing, and I was looking, and I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to be doing, but a lot of people on the spectrum have words that they change because they just like the sound of it, and this will make sense to you in a minute. The first thing I noticed about her was the incredibly impressive way her bottom moved to the music independently of the rest of her. So I was absolutely transfixed and fixated on what I thought was just truly extraordinary. And so I realise now that I was supposed to be mortified or scream and leave or be distressed or cry, but I did none of those things because I was in awe. And I got closer, and I sensed a shift in the mood with people going, but I had no idea that it was to do with me, and I got a bit closer till I was just like, wow. Because one cheek moved up as the other one moved down, and she said, obviously I wasn't having the desired effect, and she said, oh, what's wrong with you? You're looking at my arms. And I said, but it's your buttocks, because that's how I said it, because I really liked how it went, oh, amazing, wow. It's okay, because if that's what he likes, I don't have that, so I understand the relationship. And then there was this kind of like scream, and both he and she rushed towards me, and my friend who'd come on with me at the time said, just go! And I was like, why? I haven't even had a snack yet. But she dragged me out, and then she said to me, why? Why did you do that? And I said, do what? And she said, aren't you embarrassed to be your friend anymore? Because every time we go somewhere, you do this really weird thing. And I was like, did you not notice her buttocks? I mean, how could you not notice? And she was like, oh! And her name was Melissa, and she stormed off. And I was left there thinking, what went so wrong? And from that time, I went to psychologists and psychiatrists, desperately trying to find out, because what the missing key was, what the clue was to being popular, keeping friends, and I think one of the problems for anyone on the spectrum is there's no book that just goes, you do this. And nobody actually, you don't go to school and somebody hands you a rule book and says, you can't say this or you can't do this. The most valuable thing that I think anyone can ever tell you is that people who like you won't ask you to do something that's uncomfortable or embarrassing or bad, or they won't say, I'll be your friend because a lot of people would say that to me, I'll be your friend if you do this thing. And when my children were at school, I homeschool them now, that happened quite a lot. They would just say, oh, didn't you hear that? The principal said you just won an award. And my son would go, no, really? And he would just go straight up there and get the, and there'd be no award and there'd be no problem. And what it seems obvious, but I still remember this really appalling day when the principal rang me and this teacher was so angry. She was so angry she couldn't even speak to me, and she said, your son just came up to me and said, I really like your ass, and that was the word that he used. And I said, no, my son would not, he would not say that. And she said, yes, he did, and I would like him to be suspended for 4 days. And I went to the school and I said, can I please talk to my son first? And what had happened was a group of 6 children had got together and said to my son, go and tell Mrs. McIntosh, she has a really nice ass, she'll really like it, you'll get an A+, you'll get good grades. And my son simply went up there with complete faith and said it. And that's the kind of thing that we're vulnerable to even to this day. Now, I don't usually look at my notes, but I'm going to because I'm not quite the same person since my father died. And something that my father said to me this year, he said to me, I'm really sorry for the Aspergers because my dad had it. And I said, don't be sorry, Dad, because all the things I love about you are all those odd, eccentric, amazing, peculiar things that you do that I really appreciate. And if I've inherited any of that, then I'm happy. Because I really like the way I look at the world. I really like how I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to approach strangers to give them a hug if they're sad, or ask them if I can help them or what their problem is. I see more colours than most people, apparently. The best thing that I really love is hearing the colours of people's voices, because it gives away clues as to who they really are. And I love my, there's this show, have you watched it? It's called Sherlock Holmes, with that Cumberbatch guy. Oh my gosh, I love that guy. You know how he has this thing called a mind palace? I have what I call my filing cabinet. I absolutely love it, I'm always in there. So I'm sure this is the same for people who are really, because the autistic spectrum is really big. So when you see someone in the corner and they don't seem to be doing much, I bet they're in their own personal filing cabinet, sorting through everything they've seen or heard or all the colours they've experienced, and it's so nice in there. Oh wow, 1 minute. Dave, is that 5 or is that? Oh, that's 15. Okay, all right. I just had to clarify the clues. So yeah, because I can keep on talking without stopping. And when I watched this show, the first thing I thought about was, oh my gosh, that guy has Asperger's. So I looked him up, and you wouldn't believe it. All over the internet, people are debating about a fictional character, like whether he has one, and they really mind. They really mind if people think he doesn't, and they really mind if people think he does. And I found this website that's made by 2 psychiatrists and 2 psychologists, and they can't stand the fact that so many people on the spectrum are admiring this guy. And I wondered if these psychologists and psychiatrists could have a diagnosis, because one of them writes in caps. And apparently if you write in caps on the internet, that means that you're actually like angry or you're shouting. And he writes, I can't stand the way television producers, I'm just doing a cat thing with my voice, make people on the spectrum interesting. And I thought, well, who would watch a television show of somebody obsessed with World of Warcraft and just playing it for like 12 hours? Or like sticking, gluing their planes together and like painting them for hours. I thought, of course, it made the character exciting. But the fact that people identified with him, I think it's a good thing. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he has it or not. It's all about finding your way and accepting who you are, and if you can see a good thing in something. Now, I am just going to have a look at my notes because I am a bit distracted because it is a bit soon and he was a major part of my life, and he always thought I was amazing and fantastic and special even when nobody else did. And one of the things I found out when he died is that he, like me, and my son, I was so excited to find out how much money that my father had actually just given randomly to people who needed it. Because I would be much better off if I hadn't done the same thing, but it's such a fun thing to do. And I sent my son to the shop to buy me milk, and the milk cost $3, but I only had a $50 note. And he came running back to say, Mum, I haven't got the milk because I had to give the $50 away. And I was like, what happened? And he said, this man approached me and said he had no money, so I had to give it to him. And I was like, we don't have very much either. But from then on, I give him the exact amount of their money because when I went to India, that's what I did. I gave a lot away, and that's actually how my first marriage broke up. Because I was giving away all of, he said his money, but I have to tell you that I had the most amount in the bank account when we got married. I did give most of it away, which made him actually quite unhappy. But that's okay because I found true happiness with someone else who likes counting the pegs on the washing line in all the colours. And all the socks together and the inner rung with the blue pegs and so on. And it's nice when someone relates to you that way. I love this story, even though it's my story and I'm telling you, it just says so much about my younger son, who's obsessed with animals like me. And this is how people on the spectrum kind of stand out. They don't intentionally stand out, it just happens because you say what you feel. But I find it really weird that most people don't say what they feel. I still don't get it. So I'm finding it hard to guide my children that way because it seems like such a natural thing to do, to feel something and then express it. But we were in the supermarket and this lady was buying meat from the butcher shop, which is something that shocks my son. He's always amazed that people can look at a woolly lamb and then go and buy it to eat. Especially if they like it and they put it on Easter cards. You know, you always have lambs on Easter cards with bunnies and daffodils, but people actually like to eat them as well. So we were in the butcher shop and he said to this elderly lady who was buying this meat, "What is that?" And she said, "That's my dinner." And he said, No, what is it? And she said, it's lamb. And he said, and he had this really cute baby voice, he goes, "Isn't the type of lamb that likes to skip on the bank and eat the daffodils and play with its mother lamb by the river with the green grass growing and all the daisies in it? Is it that kind of lamb?" And she went, "No, it's the other kind." And my son said, "You mean the dead kind?" And she was like, "What's wrong with you, child?" And all these people in Coles were just going, as if I'd given birth to a monster. And it reminded me of, there was a comedian on television who's got Aspergers, and he told this, I just loved the way that he described it because my son related to it. But when this comedian said it, everybody laughed. But when my son said it, they were like horrified. But he said this thing where he goes, "I don't want to eat the creatures that actually enjoy their life from their free range. I want to eat the ones that are suffering because they want to die. I don't want to eat a happy lamb. I want to eat one that's absolutely miserable." And it made sense. So my son's been trying that tactic tactic in Coles, it's not working. He does, however, when he stands in the egg section, he does make a lot of people feel guilty and they end up buying free range because he pretends to be a battery chicken. And he's really good at imitating, so that works really well. But I suppose the main message that I want to get through, and the hour's gone much faster than I was expecting, is, and I've said it before, it's not the tolerance thing. I don't want to be tolerated. My children don't want to be tolerated. We want to just be accepted and embraced. And I'm really lucky because I'm really articulate, so I can say lots of things that people on the spectrum maybe can't say, maybe can't express, and I can. And I'm really friendly. I'm not good at making friends. That's still coming. I think Deb might be becoming one. I have one really good one who was really nice to me even after I wore pyjamas to the school, which I did explain in my talk last year, but she stayed my friend even when the other mothers weren't. And when I say pyjamas, I don't want any of you thinking flannel. They were really nice, and I matched the shoes, so I thought that would be okay, but it wasn't. So, but the thing that's really helped me is because I know lots of people worry about their children on the spectrum being connected to the internet. Don't. It's how I met my true love, my husband. And not only that, but most of my life I only got birthday cards from my family. And since I joined Facebook, and I must admit, I cried the whole night before I designed my Facebook page because I so didn't want random people just talking to me. But I got 49 birthday messages. And they were sincere. They said nice things. And Deb saw some of them actually appear at the Aspect Art event. So, because I've read things on the internet that go, Facebook friends aren't real. But I've actually met some of the real ones that I would not have met if I wasn't on Facebook. And you are so much more than what you see, because I used to just pull my hat down and I got all my human contact from strangers, just helping them, just randomly. And one of the I now realise it was a really weird thing to do, but one of my favourite things to do when I was still trying to work out what was wrong was I thought I could find out about human nature if I just went walking around at night. So I found a whole heap of human nature. I found prostitutes and homeless people, and to make the prostitutes feel comfortable, I would dress like one. I had no idea that that would actually make me look like one. It didn't occur to me at all. So for years, I went out talking to all the prostitutes and the homeless people, and then I only found out when after about 3 years of doing this, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I had a bag packed and I was going to visit my mum, and this guy, bouncer for the Pink Pussycat, said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're going on a holiday. You're the hardest working girl I know." And I was like, what? I was so baffled. And I didn't realise that everybody had thought that I was one, but this is what I found out. Behind all those people on the street were people who were vulnerable and isolated just the way that I felt. And I spent years with them, talking with them and going to where they lived, or and I learnt about how neurotypical people generally treat people on the edge of life. And a lot of my life I have felt absolutely on the edge, looking in, desperately wanting to be part of it. All those sitcoms you see on television where everyone's getting along really well. I was so excited about The Big Bang. I thought, oh my gosh, if I could just jump into there, I would fit in perfectly. But life isn't actually like those television shows. But this is what I think people should do. They should go, is the person nasty or are they nice? And that is really the only thing that should matter. If they wear pyjamas to the school morning tea because they like the paisley pattern on them and the purple shoes that match, isn't that much nicer than actually being, am I allowed to say bitch? I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, A bitch? Well, personally, I think that is a much better choice. I would much prefer to be friends with the person in the pyjamas than the other person. And if the person goes up and spends half an hour talking to the sad man at the bus stop, isn't that a nice thing to do rather than walking past them? So I don't really get why so many people on the spectrum are excluded, but what I'm saying is that's what I think people should do. They should think, is this a nice person or not? And that's really all it should come down to. And there's so much more in us than you see. I met a woman whose son cannot talk, and he's really, really autistic. And she was told that people on the autistic spectrum prefer their own company and they love being on their own. And I do love being on my own, but I also love being with other people. And you know what he wrote on his iPad because he couldn't talk, and they got this special keyboard attached to it? His first thing, the first bit of communication that his family had ever heard and anybody else was, I am lonely. I want a friend. And his mum said that they were so shocked because they presumed he didn't want any. And we do. And my sons have one friend at the moment, but they need more because he's so popular that he only just has a little bit of time for them. But my sons are really, really, really nice. They are the ones that will carry. Every old person in Corrimal has had their bags carried home by my children. And the thing is, I get really excited and sometimes people go, turn it down, and I've only got 2 minutes left, so I'll be turning it down. But I think, well, why? Why not experience life to the absolute full? So if that means singing down the street, because I love doing that, why not? I don't really understand why there are all these rules about what you can do and what you can't do. Just be who you are. And I think every person who has a child on the spectrum should say to them, when they don't want to have an experience that they feel uncomfortable with, to just do it. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Because before I did this was under my bed, and Deb knows the story of how this came out from under my bed and out of the computer. And I had no idea that I could make people happy with it. I had no idea that other people would like it. And I was painfully kind of shy and friendly at the same time. But now, since I've started exhibiting my work and showing it, and people have started telling me that they like it, I feel at last there is a place for me, and I spent most of my life thinking that there wasn't. And that's another reason why I'm up here right now, because my other place is, apart from being an artist, my other place is helping other people maybe understand a bit about the challenges that people on the spectrum face and about what's going on in here that you can't see. Because all the women at the school, all they saw was the strange lady in the pyjamas. They didn't see any of this, and they didn't see the mum at home when people told me that my son would never talk, and now he does. And so inside every person is someone that you don't know about. So you need to take the time to get to know who they are and meet them. And I love having all the bad experiences that I've had. I didn't like it at the time, but afterwards I can look back and go, well, this is who I am now because of it. So thank you for listening. I hope I've helped in any way at all. And I hope I've made the day interesting. And thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. I've got shocking vestibular sensations. I just want to thank Cassandra very much for her insights to growing up with an autism spectrum disorder. Each time I hear Cassandra speak, I relate it to so many children and things that they've done and thought that's why they've done it, and just hope that I didn't traumatise them by any process along the way. But anyway, thank you, Cassandra. And Yeah. And she's gorgeous. She does have her beautiful work here, and you can see it online, and also her cards. If you want a little piece of Cassandra, she has beautiful cards that are on sale today if people want to. Not that today you were expected to spend any money. We didn't want that at all.
You can just enjoy looking at them.
But it's nice to buy some too. And so thank you, Cassandra. And is someone going to find some food for Cassandra? Oh, great. Yeah, we'll go this way.
Nicer than ours.